Welcome to BWTMONLINE, and this edition of Inside Story. We ask the questions you want the answers to. And now our host, Ingram Jones.
Hi and welcome to BWTMONLINE. I'm your host Ingram Jones, and on tonight's show, Franny Smith, the trainer of David Price. David Price, the British and Commonwealth heavyweight champion, who is about to fight Tony Thompson this Saturday night. Wanted to know more about Franny Smith, the trainer. Wanted to know about how Franny Smith got into boxing. You know, whether he had any amateur fights, he turned over and became pro. About his boxing techniques, Tyson Fury, and the heavyweight division. Wanted to know what also Franny Smith thought of David Price as a world force and where he thinks his fighter is going to be in the next 12 months. Well, without further ado, let's listen to Franny Smith.
All right, Ingram.
Good afternoon, Franny.
Good afternoon, mate.
Thank you for talking to BWTMONLINE. I know you're very busy at the moment.
No problem, mate. It's
Okay.
a pleasure.
This Franny Smith is the trainer of David Price, the British and Commonwealth heavyweight champion.
That's correct, yeah.
Exactly. Right. Great stuff. So let's get into this. So first of all, I mean, I know you're the trainer of David Price, but I don't know much about you as a trainer. So how'd you get into boxing?
Well, I started off boxing myself as a young kid at the Salisbury Amateur Boxing Club in Liverpool. And I stayed with that club through, many years and started coaching when I was 19. And then, obviously, the Salisbury Amateur Boxing Club was a really successful club. So we had many national champions, schoolboy champions, junior champions. And then, obviously, that's where my association with David started. When he was 17, when he joined the Salisbury Boxing Club. He won national senior titles at heavyweight. And obviously, the rest of his amateur career is well documented.
Of course.
So, obviously, when David went off to GB squad, I sort of got to the point in my amateur career where I'd sort of achieved mostly everything that I'd wanted to do. I'd been to European Championships, World Amateur Championships, trained an Olympian, numerous national champions. So I'd sort of come to the end of my time, really, and retired from the sport. So I'd had my own business and was just concentrating on that. And I got a call out the blue from David when he turned professional with Haymaker, and he asked me would I be his Liverpool-based trainer, which thought about for about a couple of seconds and then agreed to do it. So I came back then, and I've been back ever since.
So he came to you to be his Liverpool-based trainer. So did that mean that he was going to have a trainer elsewhere as well, or?
Well, Adam Boyd was going to train him initially because he was promoted by Haymaker. Okay. So for his first fight, he'd done nearly all of his training with me, and then after his first fight, he went off and done 6 weeks in Cyprus for when Hay was supposed to fight Vladimir the first time.
Okay.
When the Satanta Sports was going.
Right.
And obviously that television company went down and the fight got called off. So David done about 6 weeks training out in Cyprus where he was sparring with David A and all the other sparring partners that were brought in for that camp. So obviously when that fight got called off and Satanta lost, went bust. Haymaker lost the TV deal, came back to Liverpool, and it was like, well, if Haymaker can't guarantee him televised fights, that sort of it void the contract really. So we left Haymaker, and I became the sole trainer from that point, and then we joined up with Frank Maloney.
Ah, interesting. So, so for you, how did you feel? Obviously, he was part of Haymaker, but Adam Booth was the trainer. Why didn't David decide to stick with Adam Booth and bring you in instead?
Well, initially, obviously, Adam was very busy with David, so
right.
I think it was a case of sort of having someone who was going to be with David Price all the time,
right,
and then maybe getting some more, extra training in with Adam as and when he could,
right.
when he could spare the time. But it was great for me because Adam was. I still feel Adam's a really, really good trainer, and I picked up a lot of things on the way off him. So it was a good experience for me to be involved with obviously someone who was training, a world champion at the time, who's obviously cruiserweight champion of the world, and cracking on to become heavyweight champion of the world. So it was a great experience for me, and I just lapped it all up. Obviously, when the association, ended, I was also happy to take on the reins with David myself then, and carry on and go forward.
Okay, so yourself as a trainer, you said that you've won as a trainer. Your fighters have gone and won various tournaments in the amateurs. Did you say?
Yeah.
Right. As a pro, apart from David Price, who else have you trained?
I trained Paul Edwards for a while.
Okay.
He was another kid who I had as an amateur, and Nathan Bruff. They were both at the Salisbury Boxing Club.
Right.
I trained them for they had a couple. Paul Edwards had a couple of fights with me, and Nathan Bruff had one fight, but I never came back into the sport to train other fighters. This was a one-off deal with David, and I decided to sort of let the other fighters go, and because it wasn't fair on them, because most of my time was getting took up with David. So, so that was the case. So they've gone off and got other trainers now, and I'm just concentrating on David.
Let me ask you a question. As if you had an offer from a welterweight that was talented, a big puncher like David, and had a good amateur pedigree, and a heavyweight that came to you with a similar sort of David Price, when you look at them, do you look at them in terms of, well, okay, as a trainer, who can I make more money off training, or what do you look like? What do you look at? Does size equal more money?
It depends really. I never had. Well, it does. That's a fact. But when I came back into the sport, I didn't think, well, whoever I train, I'm going to look at it in terms of finance.
Right.
But obviously, it is a business, and you do have to think, well, if I'm going to put myself into this full time, then I want to be in it to where I can maximise the amount of money that I can earn. Obviously, it is a business. So we in that case, David was, the ultimate in terms of, I could earn life-changing kinds of money.
Yes.
Which, anyone who knows professional boxing, some of these kids are not earning a penny. And of the other fighters that did train, I never ever took a penny off them because they didn't earn that much, and I couldn't have took it off them because, they just didn't have any money. So. So it wasn't just a financial decision, but that is definitely
but you're just being honest.
Factor.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it is a factor. Yeah.
So I mean, I don't want to go into great detail, but an average. Let's say if I have come out of the Olympics and I've actually won something at the Olympics, whether it be silver, gold, bronze. Does that determine? And it sounds a silly question. How much would I get for my first 4 or 5 fights offhand? just as a rough estimate.
It depends on obviously circumstances have changed a lot lately in professional boxing, even from the 2008 Olympians to the ones now.
Right.
I mean, the 2008 Olympians were offered a lot more money than what the latest Olympians are. There's just not that money available for them. Okay. I think, obviously Frankie Gavin and James DeGale, they were on good money and they got good deals. The guys now who've come from the Olympics, I don't think they'll get that good a deal apart from maybe Anthony Joshua, who's obviously an heavyweight again, which the heavyweights will get a better deal, and he's potentially a superstar as well.
Ogogo has just turned over with Golden Boy. Will he make more money because he's signed with an American deal with Golden Boy? Or
I would imagine so. He's probably looked at the whole. In England now. I mean, you've got Eddie Hearn, who's got he's got the monopoly on Sky.
Mm.
He's also got a headline so many shows a year. So he's going to push all these new recruits very fast to try and get them up to titles, because he's not going to be able to pay them the kind of money to fight journeymen. So they're going to get fast-tracked without a doubt. The only other TV networks are Channel 5 with Mick Hennessy and the Box Nation TV with Frank Warren, and which we've got a deal for the next. I think our next 3 fights or 2 fights are going to be on Box Nation TV. So, there's a little bit of competition, but there's not the same. We're in a world recession or coming out of a world recession.
Yes.
So there's not that much money around in boxing. Boxing's all about ticket sales, about TV money, and these promoters are not going to lose money. So it's tight. It is tight. And I don't think the Olympians that have just come from the latest Olympics are going to get the rewards that maybe they got in other years.
Okay, I'm going to talk about your fighter, David Price. And in particular, I'm going to talk about personality and ticket sales. Now, David Price has a big following in Liverpool. That's without a doubt. But, there's another man down the road, or on the other side of the water, as they say, in Tyson Fury. We'll move on to him a little later. But in terms of ticket sales, if David Price were to become more vocal in his opinions, and he was more like a Mayweather or or David Haye, or even a Tyson Fury in his approach, because he's very much more, to himself, very more conservative. He's not a loudmouth, as they say. Do you think that would increase his sales? Or do you think that he's liked because he's just the way that he is?
No, I think to be honest, I think he's outselling Fury, without a doubt. We sold nearly 9,000 for the Audley Harrison fight. We sold, I think it was nearly 5,000 for the Sam Sexton fight. We sold the Equestrian Centre out, which holds just under, I think it's about 4,800 or something.
Okay.
We sold that out. The crowds are getting behind David. So, and I noticed the crowd that Tyson had for his last fight there was empty seats, and so I don't think he's got the same popularity of fans that David Price has got, to be honest.
Okay. So do you think it's because he's perceived as the gentle giant that he's got his fan base the way that he has?
No, because he knocks people out.
Yeah, we know that much.
Yeah.
But outside the ring and not inside the ring.
I think people like him because he's a gentleman. He doesn't trash talk. He doesn't, his mouth doesn't get him fights. His fists get him fights. So. Or
don't get him fights. You mean?
Or don't. I've explained that to Dave. That could be our possible downfall. Is the fact that who's going to want to fight him? He's 6'8". He's probably one of the hardest punchers in world boxing. So, we can take it out with one shot. As a coach, that's my worst nightmare. to face. So I can see other coaches running a mile from wanting their fighters to go in with them.
Okay.
So we could become a victim of our own success.
Absolutely. I know you raised the topic about knocking people over, which is, and I'm sure you've read the forums, and I'm sure you've looked at my Twitter page, going back and forth with people talking about Price and Fury. And the one criticism that a lot of boxing fans come up with is they use the word bums. I'm sure you heard it. Oh, he's knocked out another bum. Who's that guy's for? He's had a losing record. And the criticism that's been thrown at David Price quite recently has been, and I myself, if you look at my videos, I've made criticisms, and they've been, well, he's been on a bit of a pensioners tour, because not literally a pensioners tour, but he's fought Audley Harrison, Matt Skelton, and now he's going to fight Tony Thompson. Now, again, I believed that Audley was going to beat Price simply because of the, you know, the styles going back to the amateur days and the problems he had with the southpaws. Well, I was proven wrong. So, and that fight didn't last very long. No. I did back Audley, but I didn't go down to put any money on it. So it was a bit of a.
Well, I think, you know, the comments you made, you know, some would say that they're justified, but if you look at world heavyweight boxing now, the world heavyweight champion's 41, which is Vitaly Klitschko. You know, Vladimir Klitschko's 37, 38.
Yes.
So a lot of heavyweights come into their own late on. So you know, when you talk about Audley Harrison, European champion, fought for the world title. Matt Skelton, the same, British, Commonwealth, European, fought Ruslan Shagayev for a world title.
Yes.
So, you know, these guys were the type of fights that were going to gain us, you know, little bits of experience.
Yes.
They were experienced characters that could have made life awkward for us. So
absolutely.
So in my eyes, they were perfect opponents. You know, he's only had 15 fights now. So in some people's minds, he's still a rookie. So who do they want him to fight? You know, do they want him to fight Klitschko after 13 fights?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. And I can see that you have to develop a fighter. I want to mention two fights here, or one fight in particular. I'm going to go back to the Matt Skelton fight. It's always, hindsight's a wonderful thing. Before the fight, we all think this was going to happen, that's going to happen. The fight's won, and then they say, "Oh, well, that guy's a bum." I'm not going to go down that road, because I think that's unfair. Anybody gets in the ring and puts the gloves up and has a fight, obviously, you know, they've got some skill level. To call somebody an absolute bum is pretty disrespectful. However, I have been.
None of them would call Matt Skelton a bump to his face.
No, they wouldn't. And
he'd give anybody a battle anywhere in the street, on the cobbles, or anywhere.
He would, absolutely. Matt Skelton, to his credit, came and gave a tough fight, a hard fight. Hold on a second. He gave a tough and hard fight.
Yeah, he did, mate.
It's all happening today. Jolly, a good job. I've got video editing. Matt Skelton gave David Price some.
Hello.
Okay, I'm back. Can you hear me?
Hello.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Matt Skelton. Yeah. Sorry, I'm back again. Matt Skelton came out and for the first round, came out and decided to give Price a bit of a fight. What did you think?
Yeah, he came out and obviously our tactic was to get behind the jab and try and put Matt on the back foot.
Right.
But he steamed out and started throwing some leather early on. And, you know, probably David wasn't as switched on as maybe he should have been early on in that fight. But he got to grips with it. He handled what Matt thrown at him and then got on top of him and got the job done. It was a difficult fight for us, that one, because it came so soon after the Audley fight, and you know the Audley fight was a massive. It was David's biggest fight, so It was a massive occasion. There was nearly 9,000 Scousers at the Echo Arena, and it was a massive fight, and to win in such devastating fashion as well. It was a big high. So then to build him, he didn't have time to come down and then to get back up for the Matt Skelton fight. So it was a bit of a difficult time that in between them two fights. But he was professional enough. He still had well enough to do a job on Matt Skelton. No disrespect to Skelton, by the way, but it wasn't ideal. But it was dealt with, and that's the way to do things as a professional.
It was a good win. The finish was very good. To be able to put away Skelton the way that he did was very impressive indeed.
Yeah, I think he showed a different aspect as well. He went downstairs. I think he did Matt with a couple of head shots and then switched the attack downstairs. So it showed a little bit of variation, and it was a satisfying result in the end.
As a trainer, how do you go back and deal with that 45 seconds where Skelton came out because we can only judge David by who he's fought so far. And for him I know the thing about motivation coming into the Skelton fight. How do you ensure as a trainer that sort of situation doesn't happen again, that he doesn't get caught off guard?
Well, it was like when he come back after the first round, they said, just get control of the contest. Just get switched on, get behind your jab, get the pressure on Matt, get it under control, and everything will fall into place. It's like you go swimming, you get wet, he's going to get hit.
You're going to get hit.
Yeah, so it wasn't a big issue. We knew Matt isn't a concussive puncher, although anything can happen with heavyweights. Anyone can knock someone out. So we're not saying we took Matt Skelton's power lightly, but we knew he wasn't a concussive puncher. If you noticed the difference when the way he came out with Audley,
yes,
he was so switched on. I don't think Audley would have been able to hit him all night the way how switched on he was.
Yeah, he was.
And that's the way he is now for Tony Thompson. He's, the Matt Skelton thing was a one-off. You won't see David Price as relaxed or as lackadaisical going into a fight than he was for that one ever again.
We really can't afford that to happen because obviously, as British fans, we want to see the two guys, Fury and Price. We really can't afford one of these guys to be slipping up because they lack concentration or they're in a lapse or anything like that. We can't afford that. We need both guys to keep winning. So yeah,
at the end of the day, we have to take into consideration he's a human being.
Yes,
and he's not a robot. He's not programmed to be able to do this and that. No. He's a human, and I think it was one of them. We just had to get that fight dealt with and done. And we knew David did have well enough to be able to do it, and he did in the end. And I don't want to dwell on.
No. We'll move on from that. We can move on that.
Yeah.
But okay, the other thing is, we go back to the amateur. We go back to the amateur days, and the question mark I have, and the question mark that not just David Price, Deontay Wilder, and a few others. The question is, well, we know he can punch. We know he's a world-class puncher, and we know if he hits anybody on the chin, they're going to go to sleep. But the real question mark is, we know that he can give it, but can he take it? And can he fight that way under pressure for 12 rounds? If he can answer that, if he can do those two things, we have there the next heavyweight champion of the world without a doubt, because he can punch, he can take a shot, and he can fight under pressure. What more do you want? That's the perfect, that's the total package. But
that's the side that you're saying no one's seen as a professional. I mean, don't forget, as an amateur, he travelled all over the world. He fought all the top amateurs in the world.
Absolutely.
And he was in a lot of tough fights with them top fighters. Yep. Some he beat, some he lost against. And since he turned professional, obviously, his training regime's different.
Of course.
He's obviously a lot more stronger than he was as an amateur. I think in the Olympic semi-final, he weighed something like 16 stone something. You know, he basically, I don't think he was as strong as what he should have been for that type of event. And I think strength played a factor in that fight. Okay. He's a different animal now. He's much more strong. He's more confident. And since being a professional, you know, we knew we weren't going to get tested till we went to world level. That was something we identified very early on in our training, that we wasn't going to get tested by anyone domestically. So we needed to go out and test them on the road, and that's something that we've proactively done. We were like a Klitschko double for about two and a half years. We travelled to Poland when Sosnowski was fighting Klitschko. You know, we went in and sparred with as many rounds with him as we could. We went and sparred with Solis when he fought Vitali. We've done many rounds with Solis. We went and sparred with David Day. Yes. You know, he's done numerous rounds with David Day. We went over to Germany, sparred with Pulev. Now these are top guys. Okay. And you're talking real real competition in sparring. You know, where people are not playing fiddlesticks. They're trying to knock it out in sparring. And you know, all them people I've just mentioned are all come to try and knock David out in sparring. Derek Chisora as well. And you know, he's took some shots on the chin. He's took them on the top of the head. He's had to battle things out with these fellas. You know, it's being competitive. So anyone who doubts that David Price can be involved in a fight, they don't know a lot, to be honest, because he really can.
But the thing is, you're a trainer. You're on the inside and can see these things. We on the outside, me included, can only see a guy throwing punches and another guy falling over. That's what we've seen so far, and that's great. But
yeah, let's hope that carries on. By the way,
yeah, you want that to happen. We need that to happen. What we don't know, as I said, and you know, we don't know. Well, not we, meaning you. I don't know, and the fans don't know whether Price can take a shot, and we don't know if Price can come back in a tough fight. Albeit in sparring, he's doing very well. But you know and I know there are fighters that look good in the gym and look good in sparring, but the performances don't look good when it comes to the big fights. So, so of course, to get in the ring and spar with Pulev and be in the ring with David Haye and Solis, of course you're going to get experience, and of course these are top-level guys, and of course these guys are going to take your chin off and try and knock you out. Of course. So you're getting top, high-quality sparring. Now, if that's the case, I want to bring you back to something you said earlier. He's had 13 or 14 fights. And I do use this comparison. Lennox Lewis, when he was in his 14th pro fight, he was European champion. Yeah? And he was 14 now, he was European champion. And in the 15th fight, I believe he fought Gary Mason, who was 35-0, ranked number 4 by the WBC, and was a big puncher. Okay? So, I mean, he was unbeaten. He was on the verge of a world title shot, and Lewis fought him. So, so in that sense, and of course, Price is an Olympic gold win, Olympic bronze medal. He won the bronze, didn't he?
Yeah, bronze.
Olympic, so he won. So he's got Olympic pedigree, and of course he's a little older at 29. So there is an element there. Well, you know, he's got. In theory, would have to move a little faster than someone like Lennox, who did start the game late, but who had already won in his 15th fight the European Championship, the British Championship, and was, you know, right in the top 10 of the world. So
yeah, sure, that's where we're moving now. Obviously, Tony Thompson's the next step on that ladder. He's ranked number 10 by the IBF, I think. Okay. He was mandatory for the title last time out against Vladimir. So, you know, these are the opponents that we're going to be facing in the future. You know, I say he's had 15. It's ready to crack on. You know, we'll fight we'll fight Tony Thompson. Obviously, we're hoping that's a great result.
Mm-hmm.
And then we look at what's next.
Okay.
You know, we want to get up there within the next 2 years, and we want to make the fights that are going to develop David to be able to one day fight for the world title, win a world title, and be able to keep the world title. So, you know, we're not going to rush. We're not going to rush in terms of taking, you know, stupid risks or opponents that are not going to suit his style, or, you know, things have got to be done right. And Frank Maloney knows best. He's done it with Lennox, and we'll do it with David Price as well.
Okay. So Tony Thompson, what sort of a challenge does Thompson bring? He's tall.
Yeah, he's tall. He's southpaw. He's got experience. He's got a good knockout ratio. So, you know, he's obviously can punch a bit. So,
but at what level would you say he's a puncher?
Well, in his eliminator for the IBF to become mandatory, he knocked out Morris Harris.
Okay.
You know, he stopped a good German, Krasnigi.
Okay.
Luan Krasnigi was a world-rated fighter. Stopped him. So, yeah, obviously, a lot of these guys knock out a lot of journeymen early on in their career, but they still knocked them out. You know, you can only knock out what's
who's put in front of you. Absolutely.
So, obviously, if he's knocking people out, his powers to be respected. So, and he's a southpaw, he's awkward, he's quite elusive. So we're taking him seriously, and we're going out to make a big statement on February the 23rd.
In terms of technical adjustments, it's documented in the past that in his amateur career, at least, that Price had problems against the southpaw, Cameronelli, I think it was.
That was the only one, yeah.
Yes.
If you look at it, if you looked at his amateur career,
yes,
you know, he hadn't probably lost to many southpaws. He beat one who's ranked number 8 by the WBC. He's Russian, based in America. Magomed Abdul Salamov, his name. He's unbeaten as a pro, 16-0, 16 knockouts. You know, I think he's ranked in the WBC, top 10 WBC. David outpointed him, stopped him on the outpoint rule, 20 pointed him. So, you know, it's a myth that he struggles with southpaws, and you've seen what he's done with Audley, and actually what he did with Audley was tactically what he should have done, what he should be doing with southpaws. You know, step to your left and bang your right hand in, and that's exactly what he did with Audley. His positioning was perfect.
Can't knock that. That was probably, in terms of punch, that was beautiful, the punch that was landed by David.
Yeah, it was the initial right hand that done the first bit of damage. And if you look at his positioning before he landed the right hand, he stepped to his left and landed the right hand. He was in a great position to do so against the southpaw. So he ain't got a problem. No, and this Tony Thompson fight's come at a good time, because we did a lot of work with southpaws for the Audley fight, so everything's still fresh, and we've just picked right back up upon it, and that's where we're at now.
Now, I mean, I've done a prediction video on this fight. I've called Thompson the pussycat in front of the tiger, because he's done nothing in his career to suggest he is a tiger at all. In fact, when pressure's put on him, he falls on the floor. So, in my prediction, I think that David Price is going to, as soon as he lands that right hand cleanly on Thompson, I think he'll land once or twice on Thompson early. Yeah. He's not going to want any of that, and he'll probably fall on the floor. That's what I think.
With all respect, though, I mean, who's he crumbled upon? Who's he crumbled? He's only crumbled against probably the ultimate heavyweight champion, hasn't he?
Absolutely.
It's Klitschko. And the first time he gave Klitschko a little bit of trouble, 11 rounds.
Yes.
Second time, 6 rounds. So, to say that he's crumbled in fights, I don't think it gives him credit. He's only crumbled against the absolute ultimate world champion, hasn't he? which is Vladimir Klitschko.
Definitely agree with you on that point, but also it's the level, isn't it? It's the level of opposition. I mean, those guys that he was beating up on, I mean, Klitschko brought pressure to him, and he hit him hard and hit him back, a lot. So,
yeah. Watch the Luan Krasniki fight.
Yes.
Luan Krasniki was the big favourite in Germany, and he was putting it on Thompson, and he was catching Thompson with clean right hands right through his guard. And Thompson soaked it up and came back and fired back. And
Franny, answer me one question. Krasniki and David Price, who hits harder?
David Price.
So, I know, Franny, and as soon as David lands one of them big right hands, what's going to happen?
Well, that's the plan. I'm hoping that when the first round, when the first bell goes, that we go out into that first round, and that Tony Thompson thinks it's round 7 of the Klitschko fight. That's where we're planning to go. We're going to, impose the same kind of pressure, and he's going to get all them demons, them flashbacks, them feel that same pressure that he felt in them 6 rounds with Klitschko. Obviously that's our job to do that. So that's what we're going to do.
That's I can see that happening, to be quite honest with you. As soon as that right hand lands, he may be thinking he's in Germany or thinking he's somewhere else and may not want any more of it. So, I mean, but having said that, if Tony Thompson can stick around 4 or 5 rounds and throw some punches back, it could get interesting.
Yeah, I mean, Tony Thompson.
Interesting.
No, obviously he's got. I mean, he's no journeyman, and he's no. He's fought for world titles. He's been mandatory for the world title twice. So he's obviously got something about him. So when you might see, he might bring certain things to the table that David might have to overcome in this fight. So I say it's all about experience as well, and we're gonna focus on what we've got to do, and whatever Tony Thompson does, that's down to him. But we'll be planning to win the fight our way.
Absolutely.
And whatever comes.
Okay, so let's talk a little bit more about the development of David Price from where he was as an amateur and all the experience he's had with all that sparring around the world. Where do you think technically he is now in terms of from the amateurs to now? Where do you think he's the improvements? I mean, or recent times, where do you think he's made the improvements?
From when he first turned professional, I mean, he was obviously at a good stance of the boxing. He obviously needed to work on his strength levels, his conditioning levels, and we identified initially that this would take a long period of time, not 12 months, it wasn't a matter of months, it was a matter of years. So we've been working towards that progressively since then, and I think up till the British title fight against Sam Sexton, I felt he was halfway where in his journey towards where he could get to, and I think from the Sam Sexton fight he's accelerated that progression. And he's probably more like over 3/4 the way now. There's still a lot to go. There's still more progression. There's still more conditioning. Still more strength. Still more tactical perception and awareness. And but we're making strides towards where he can finally be. And I think he's accelerated that. And the acceleration in that has been down to himself, in his desire and appetite for the sport. He comes in with renewed vigour on every camp, and apart from obviously the Skelton fight, which was a difficult one for him, but he's learned from that as well. So he's come back in for this fight now. He had 3 weeks rest after the Skelton fight, and he's chomping at the bit, and he's it's like with all fighters, you can take them to water, but you can't make them drink. And this fella's gulping it down. He loves it. He wants it. He's not going to leave any stone unturned in his pursuit to get to the top. And he really is a pleasure to train as well.
So, what's your relationship with David Price like in terms of trainer fighter?
Well, obviously it's a business deal as well. We're in this. It's a business. we are friends. There's no doubt about that. I believe in him 1,000,000%. I believed in him right from the word go. Believed in him when he was an amateur as well. But I believed when he turned professional that he could be a world champion. I told him on the 9th, I think it was the 3rd of March 2009, we'd just finished a really hard session, and I sat down with him and I looked him in the eye and I said, "You're going to be a world champion." And I don't think he believed me at that point, but he believes me now. And we've never doubted along this journey that that's where he can get to, and we're going to do everything in our powers to make that possible also.
In terms of, I mean, a visual perception I've seen of David Price. When David Price started his professional career, his confidence didn't seem the way that it is now. He seems to have seems more self-assured than he was when he started his professional career. Why would that be the case?
Well, it's all about results, isn't it? I mean, and as we've said about going away sparring, and I understand that, but it's also a gain from it. If you go in and compete with level fighters, and not only compete but more than compete, it gives you that confidence of where you're at in level terms. And we've come away from these camps and we've got success at them, and it's given confidence. And then he's gone into his fights from having that confidence in the sparring, and he's demolished people that theoretically should be giving him problems. I mean, look at John McDermott. McDermott done 19 rounds with Tyson Fury. Won the first fight hands down without getting the decision. Was sick in the second fight, and I know because we were going to spar him for the second fight. And we spoke to him about coming down to spar, and he said, "I can't spar a mil." So this was a few weeks to go to the fight, so we'll pull out the fight. He said, "I can't because I need the money." So he took that fight knowing he was sick and still went 9 rounds with Tyson Fury. And if you look what David Price done to John McDermott, it was devastating. So, yeah, it's the confidence he's getting is only coming from what he's doing. It's what he's doing in the gym, what he's doing in sparring on the road, and what he's doing in his fights, because he's getting the job done, and he's getting the job done in emphatic style. And none of these domestic level fighters who theoretically should be giving him problems are causing him.
Hello? Yep.
Yeah.
Are causing him problems, you were saying, yes. Okay.
Yeah, none of them are causing any problems at all. So,
Derek Chisora, a name that's been mentioned, potentially after Tony Thompson. How would you assess a potential Chisora fight in the future?
Derek Chisora's tough. He's a very strong man. He's got a low sense of gravity. He moves his head. He applies pressure. It's a good fight. It's a fight I don't know whether Derek Chisora would want, but certainly if the promoters want to make it happen, then it's something that we'd definitely be interested in. He's acquitted himself at world level against Vitali and against Elenius, which he won that hands down. And he was giving David A a lot of trouble in that fight until he was caught. Yeah. So Derek Chisora is a good fighter, and he deserves the utmost respect. If you look at his few fights, he's only fought top level fighters. So, Derek's a good guy. He's not one of the bad guys like that people perceive him to be. I've got a lot of time for Derek and his trainer Don. But if that fight has to happen, it has to happen. And, it's a fight that we'd feel confident that we could win that fight as well.
Okay, when you look at Derek Chisora, do you see him as just another opponent, or do you see that as a dangerous opponent?
It's a dangerous opponent, without one shadow of a doubt, to us to believe that tactically aware. We would have to be, on the money in that fight with Derek, because if you're not, any shortcomings you've got, Derek will find out. So, you know, if it does happen, I don't know whether it is going to happen. You know, there's little whispers that it's a possibility, but we're not going to focus on Derek Chisora. Obviously, all our attention's on Tony Thompson, and that's what we've got to deal with him first before we talk about anybody else.
Okay, so let's say you get past Tony Thompson. There is another man called Tyson Fury, which I know fans would want me to talk to you about, because I couldn't have a conversation about David Price without mentioning Tyson Fury. Yeah. So Tyson Fury...
When you say man, you should say young man.
Yes, the young man.
He's only a young man. He's a young man, isn't he?
So what do you think of Tyson Fury? Not the fighter, but the talker.
He's great, isn't he?
He is.
Yeah, he's give us many hours of fun. He amuses me no end. I love listening to his interviews. I love listening to his rants or reading his rants on Twitter. He's definitely a character, and you know, he's good for the sport. He's good for David Price. He's good for us, and we're happy to have him as a nemesis, as a rival, as an opponent, as whatever. We're glad at Tyson Fury. So I like him. Yeah, I do. I like him.
What about him as a fighter? I believe that Tyson told me that he fought David Price when he was much younger. He was like 18 or 19. He fought him, I believe, in that sparring session.
Yeah, he fought him in the ABAs.
Okay.
In the Northwest Counties ABA final, and David beat him 22 points to 8, I think it was, and by all accounts was pretty much one side of the fair. So obviously Tyson tells his version of the events. You know,
he said his version of the events were that it was boy against man, to be really honest, meaning that, you know.
Yeah, obviously, yeah. I mean, he says things like that. I mean, he got beat, so what can you say? He was in the ring. He was at the age that you're in a senior tournament. So he was at that age. If you're good enough, if you're old enough, obviously he wasn't good enough. So that tells you everything, doesn't it? I mean, he came into the changing rooms and apologised for his mouthy behaviour after that fight, and and said that, you know, the best man won. So no more needs to be said on that other than what he said himself on the night.
But he meant
by the better man.
He was beat by the better man, but he dropped Price in that fight as well, and a lot of people.
No, he did. He didn't drop Price at all. There was an occasion when it was like a rabbit punch around the back of the head, and Price stumbled forward. There was no count given. It wasn't a knockdown. It was a fallacy that he was knocked down, because it never was. That was the knockdown that never was. So
interesting, very interesting. I think this is new. This is revelation, in fact, to boxing fans, because I was always under the impression, looking at that clip, that Price got dropped.
No, it's that grainy thing that was on YouTube. Is that what you're referring to?
Yes.
I mean, if you look at it very closely, it's like a punch that comes around the back of his head. David's moving forward towards Fury, and the punch comes around the back of the head and sort of pulls him forward. So I'm sure if they were prepared to show the full video, you would see that it wasn't what it was, and there was no count given. It was what it was. It was a stumble, and it definitely wasn't a knockdown, and it never hit David Price. That's for sure.
So how
well, let them carry on. That doesn't make any difference to us. That.
So if you were to face, or it's more than likely you will face, when you do face, how are you prepared for Tyson Fury?
Walk right through him.
You think you'll walk right through him?
He will walk right through him.
You don't think Tyson's going to throw anything back at you?
He can't punch. He's a non-puncher. Even his Uncle Huey said he can't punch. Look at his opponents that he's been fighting. Vinny Mantelone come back to the corner after being punched, his head punched in by Fury, and said to his trainer he can't punch. He's a non-punching heavyweight. So, we walk right through him. David Price will walk right through Tyson Fury. Lucky enough, he's got a bit fitter. Go on, yes. What?
Ali was never a puncher, but the accumulation of his punches and accurate punching was what stopped opponents.
Can you say the same about Tyson Fury as Ali? Come on.
No, you can't say that. I agree, but I'm saying that having a big punch isn't everything.
No, it isn't. But it's if you're having a big punch, it sort of alters what you're going to do in a fight. Because if you're going in against a known puncher, you're going to be more cautious. You're going to be more switched on defense-wise. It alters your way of thinking, and so that's what's going to happen when people face David Price, because they know he can put the fight as well tactically.
Technically, you said you'd walk through Tyson Fury because
he's. To be honest, the fight would have happened for the British title when Tyson Fury. It would have been an easier affair than it would possibly be now, because he's getting in shape and he's obviously learning some things off his uncle, and he's become a better boxer. But it wouldn't change anything, because once he's all right dancing around the ring for 12 rounds against an absolute negative fighter in Kevin Johnson, what's he going to do when someone's actually pressuring him and putting it on him and cutting the ring off and hitting him with hard shots? Which is, if you look at Tyson Fury, all through his career, when he gets hit, he turns away from the punches like he's not used to getting hit. He's to be honest, I don't really think that he's that good. He got beat by John McDermott, then he beat a sick John McDermott in the second fight. He boxed an overweight Derek Chisora, who was out of condition, and won that fight. He's beat an absolute negative Kevin Johnson, who's like got beat by Tor Hamer in the prize fighter. I mean, what does that tell you? Tor Hamer's just been stopped by Glazkov, the Ukraine, in 3 rounds. So it tells you about this. It's a myth how he says he's as good as he is. It's a myth, and that's all Tyson Fury is to me. He's a myth, because he's nowhere near as good as what he thinks he is.
Okay, well, Tyson would turn around and say to you, well, okay, I still got in the ring with Derek Chisora. I still got in the ring and had 12 hard rounds against somebody who's trying to take my head off. That's what he would say to you.
Of course, you know Derek Chisora. Yes, Derek was out of shape for that fight, so
absolutely.
Say what you want. He won the fight, but that's all he's got on his record. Apart from that, he's Nevin Padjek, who had him in trouble. Nikolai Feta, who put him. He was more hurt in the Feta fight than when he got dropped off Padjek, I think. But these are not great fighters. These are fighters who David Price would take out in a few rounds. This game is all about levels.
Absolutely.
And, I'm an experienced. I've been in the game for since I was 13 years of age, and the boxing's always been about levels. David Price is levels above Tyson Fury, and to the general public, they listen to all the rubbish he spouts. But to the people in the know, who know about boxing, people who are around us, who know what David's doing day in and day out, they know what type of training he's doing, how serious we take things. I mean, when we get an opponent like Audley Harrison or Tony Thompson, we get world level fighters into spar. We've got fighters coming into spar who Klitschko get for their world titles. When I hear Tyson Fury's fighting K1 fighters in sparring because he doesn't have to pay them any money. So it shows you who's doing who's taking the job seriously. And most people who are in the know in boxing will know that David Price is levels above Tyson Fury. Tyson Fury goes on. He's offered Vitaly Klitschko 100 fights. He's offered Vladimir Klitschko 100 fights. He's offered Chris Arreola 25 fights. Who's he to offer anybody fights? He's not a world champion. He can't offer people fights. He's going anyone in the top 10 won't fight him. David Price is in the top 10. We'll fight him. And he doesn't want to fight, saying we're levels below him.
All right.
Absolute rubbish.
I don't want to be a referee in between this because you're two big guys, Price and Fury. But what I will add for my little 2 cents is that
Won't need a referee. All the referee will be doing is counting to 10 as Tyson Fury's on the deck.
Here we go.
No referees required.
So you're going to be the mouthpiece now. You're going to be the mouthpiece now for David Price now, are you?
No, I just want to tell it how it is. It's just, there's realities here. Look, no when we won the eliminator for the British title, and we were due to fight Tyson Fury, and the purse bids were going in. We were with Sky then. Frank Maloney had, I think 250 grand to put in purse bid to win the fight because we wanted to fight Tyson Fury for the British title. We wanted that fight. There's no lies. We would have fought on Channel 5 if Mick Hennessy would have put a bigger bid in than Sky. We wanted to fight Tyson Fury for the most amount of money on whatever network that won the bid, whether it be Mick Hennessy, Frank Warren, Frank Maloney, whoever. So we wanted the most money, and that's what way it was going to go. It was going to the board for purse bids, and we would have fought anyway. So that was the case. All these lies about them offering us money to fight on Channel 5, it was a load of absolute rubbish. And when it comes down to it, they contacted us to as a gesture to try and get out of going to purse bids because they knew they probably would have lost the purse bid. Tyson Fury admitted on camera that he wasn't ready for David Price. He said he was out drinking and he wasn't training and all that, and he wasn't ready. He wasn't ready for David Price. Okay, so he dodged the fight because he wasn't ready. Now that he's ready, why isn't he taking the fight now?
Well, his argument would be, well, I'm ranked number 3 in the world. Just had a world title eliminated, so then why should I come and fight you? Why don't you fight somebody? That's his argument. That's what he's been saying.
Well, when he had the opportunity to fight us, when he was the champion, he said he wasn't ready for that fight. Surely, if you duck out of a fight because you're not ready, because you're not in condition, you're not fit enough, you don't think you're going to win the fight. Surely, when you get into condition and you get fit, you would want that fight. Surely.
Well, his uncle Peter Fury is making the adjustments to Tyson to make him a better rounded fighter. That's evident.
Let him spar with K1 fighters.
Well, that's what Tyson tells us, but do you believe everything Tyson tells you?
Well, that's what his uncle says, isn't it?
Well, I wouldn't believe everything Tyson tells you. But having said that, I have not been at the gym. I've never watched any of the K1 fighters he spars with. I don't know.
Whether he does or he doesn't, I don't care. But it's not going to make any difference anyway. Whoever he spars or whoever he, if he wants to take the fight, we're ready for the fight. We'll fight him anytime. Franny, we want to fight.
The other thing I will mention is that despite the back and forth between yourself, your camp, and Tyson's the Fury camp, Tyson has been involved in a few fights where A, he's had to go 12 rounds. B, he's had to dig deep. C, he's had to get off the canvas. 3 things. And 4, he's been hit on the chin. 4 things that David Price is yet to do. Regardless of levels, he's yet to do it. So we don't know what happens when Price gets hit on the chin hard.
Doesn't that tell you, when we're talking about levels, doesn't that give you the clue to what we're talking about here?
But then Tyson
He hasn't been hit on the chin. He hasn't had to go 12 rounds. So
But yeah, I would also.
Did you say when Mike Tyson was knocking everyone out within rounds, was people going then? He's never been hit on the chin. He's never been, it's because he's as good as he was that he was getting people out of there. That's what David Price is going to continue to do.
That's a valid point, but he met a man called Evander Holyfield down the line, who Holyfield stood in front of Tyson and hit Tyson back and put him on the back foot and made him have to fight a different fight. And you know what the outcome was in 2 fights.
Of course, I mean, there's absolute class, world-class legend fighters like Holyfield who would do that to anybody. So, there's always going to be them occasions. If David Price went in with Vladimir Klitschko tomorrow, all them kind of questions would be answered, because he's at that level that he could possibly bring them things into the fight where he will hit David on the chin. David will have to fight back and get it and come back, and but it's only going to be at world level that David Price has to answer them questions.
Okay.
Because he's that good.
Okay. Well, in sparring, this is a straight up question. In sparring, when David's been hit on the chin and has been put under pressure, how does he respond? The truth.
By fighting back and sometimes by getting through the situation. I mean, there was one situation where he sparred with David A, and it was a pretty much controlled spar up to that point, because David was using his range and tactically he was putting the pressure on David A, and David caught him with a shot that would have knocked an horse out. And if you ever speak to Adam Booth or David A, they'll tell you about it. It would have knocked an horse out. It was one of the hardest punches I've ever seen. And David A can punch. Believe me, David A can punch. And, David took a step. He hit him, nearly knocked his head off. Took a step and carried on, fresh as a daisy. Sparred another 6 rounds straight after it. So, Pulev caught him with an absolute belter of a shot and went to close the show. Pulev jumped right on him trying to close the show in a spar. David Price weathered the storm and came right back at him and was actually going for him towards the end of the round. So I've seen what I need to see. It's not a question mark for me. Obviously, it's a question mark for the general public and the fans.
This is what the fans want to hear, Franny, as you understand. This is what the fans want to hear. Yeah. You don't get to hear this stuff generally on when the media asks a question. They're always asking the nice questions.
Of course, yeah.
So I'm asking you the real questions as to, because people want to know if they really are looking at the real deal. Is David Price the real deal? Is Tyson Fury the real deal? Well, you can talk all you want. But
that's actions speak louder than words.
When it comes down to it, we don't want a situation of you're challenging for a world title, never fought, and never really being tested up to that point. Then you fight at world level, somebody starts hitting you back, and then you crumble. Because we've been there before, and not so much with David Price or Tyson Fury, but with previous British fighters who've had an unbeaten record. They've done well, they've done this, they've done that, and then they get to world level, they start getting punched back. And they don't look so good, and they end up getting knocked out abroad. We know the story, and we are desperate to have a world heavyweight champion in the UK again. That's without a doubt. We want it, and we want.
Yeah, and that's what we're going to get with David Price, without a doubt. He's, this lad's been fighting at top level for years. He's been in war after war after war. He's been dropped in fights in amateur and got up to win. If you look at the Commonwealth semi-final, as an amateur, he was down 3 times against the Indian, got up and stopped the Indian in the last round. So, there's a lot of people don't know all his history. They think like he's never been hit in a boxing ring, or no one's ever hit him back. It's like he's the boxer who's never been hit. It's like it's just a big fallacy.
Of course, it is.
David Price has fought all over the world against really, really tough men, and he's had to dig in deep at times. He's been beat at times. He's been, he's got off the floor and won. He's had every experience possible in a boxing ring. So, he's definitely got all the experience. He's been to the bottom of the barrel where he knows he has to get up and fight on to win. And, you know, I go back to when he was 17 years of age and his first ABA title or his first ABA championships. And he got to the quarterfinals against Mighty Joe Young from London, who'd knocked everyone out on the way through. And we went into that fight. We were going to pull him out because of experience. And he come back after the first round. I was in his corner, and his nose was bust. There was blood all over his face. You know, I come back. I wiped his face clean because I couldn't see his eyes. There was that much blood. And not one point did that kid give that fight up. And he went out and boxed Joe Young's head off for the 4 rounds and won the fight comprehensively and took big, massive shots on the way as a 17-year-old kid. Showed tremendous courage, heart, desire. That was a 17-year-old. He was given 12 kilo in weight away. So I knew then he had the ingredients, and there's nothing that he's done from that point on up till now that he showed any different to me.
Thank you so much for saying this, because, you know, as I said, fans don't get to hear this stuff. The real, you know, the reason why fans don't get to hear this stuff is generally because a lot of the questions that are asked, like I said before, are very scripted. Yeah, I said, how's your fighter? How's he doing? And you say he's in his best fight of his life or best shape of his life, blah, 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 blah. Don't really get to know what's really going on. So I hope this has helped the fans. In terms of abroad, 2 heavyweights on the horizon, Bryant Jennings and Deontay Wilder. What have you got to say about those 2 fighters?
I haven't watched much of that Bryant Jennings. I know he's fighting Solis, I think. I've seen a little bit of Deontay Wilder, and he's an explosive puncher, and he's someone that you would definitely have to treat seriously. When we went to spar with Hay when he was fighting Klitschko, and he was there. We sparred the same night actually. We done 6 rounds with David. And then I think Deontay Wilder done a few rounds. Obviously, he's a big guy. He's probably not at the level of strength that he possibly could be, but he's definitely one that you would have to watch out for the future. And to say that he's a massive puncher.
But the other question is about him: can he take it? I mean, he's been dropped already as in his career so far, but he's got up to win. So,
of course, yeah. I mean, if I had to put in David Price in a fight now between Tyson Fury or Deontay Wilder, I'd take Tyson Fury, because Deontay Wilder's a really big puncher. So they're the dangerous fights, the likes of when I say dangerous, they're the more dangerous fights. But you know, that's one for the future. That's what I've said it all along. I believe David Price will probably end up fighting Deontay Wilder in a big fight in America, maybe in the future. I've just got a feeling about that.
The battle of the bronze medalists.
Well, I don't think it'll be billed as that, because that'll all be forgot about by then. You know, it'll be about the 2 best heavyweights in the world, not about what they did as an amateur, which is what we would hope that it would be all about, is being the best 2 heavyweights in the world. And I think Deontay Wilder, they could build him, you know, they build his career so far where he's getting a lot of knockouts, and I think he's knocked everyone out that he's fought. So
he's fighting tonight. He's fighting tonight in Mexico. I think he's a replacement because somebody else was meant to fight, so he stepped in to fight in Mexico. I think he's top of the bill, and he's fighting a guy called Gear, I believe.
Oh, is he? Matthew Gear.
Matthew Gear. And I hear Gear's meant to be a bit of a tough nut. He's tougher than people give him credit for.
Yeah, he's a bit of a journeyman, though. I think we were down to fight him after about 10 fights. We were going to get him over, and I don't think the board approved it, to be honest.
Okay.
So I wouldn't expect that to go long. But you know, he's another one like Tyson Fury. The characters and we need these kind of characters around us to build the big fights that that are going to generate the interest, going to generate the revenue that we need to fight for. So yeah, it's all good. It's all good. Tyson Fury's all good. I'm going on a bit about him, but just getting a little bit of our own back on him for all the rubbish that he's been coming out with. Don't forget, when David Price turned professional, Tyson Fury was never out the press saying he was going to knock David Price out. He was going to do this to David Price. David Price has got no chin, and it's all come back on him in a way where he's getting ridiculed for running away from the fight. So, he deserves it because he's all right at giving it. So you've got to be able to take it, and he's certainly able to give it, and it's only going to come back from what he said in the past. And
he did make one comment. He called him a plumber. Can you clarify that with us, please?
He's a gas fitter. He never was a plumber. He's a registered gas fitter. So that was a bit of a slant at his career, calling him a plumber. He's a gas fitter.
Well, I think Tyson meant by when he was finished with him.
Not a very good gas fitter, by the way.
I think the last bit was about the Europe. I was going to ask you about the European title.
Well, obviously, Kubrat Pulev is the European champion. He's, I think he may be vacating that title because he's fighting Adamek in Poland. So, whoever they nominate for that title, I don't know. I think possibly Elenius might be in line for it.
That would be good. Yourself against Elenius would be a good fight, actually.
Yeah, well, don't forget, David's boxed Elenius twice as an amateur.
Okay.
He's also boxed, who was the Pole who Klitschko fought last time out?
Whack.
Marius Wach. He boxed him as an amateur. Yeah, so, David's fought all these guys, and I mean, and I don't think he's improved by 70% than what he was then. So he's a much better fighter than he was then.
That fight against Whack, I mean, I know he's banned at the moment, but he would be a good fight against Price just to be able to go the distance.
Yeah, because he's got a rock solid granite chin, hasn't he?
Can't miss it, can you?
Well, if he had one on the back of his head, he'd be like a pickaxe, wouldn't he? Yeah. He's got some jaw on him.
He's got some jaw and a half, yeah.
He's banned, isn't he? Because he'd been doping, so...
Yeah, that's a shame. Because he could take a shot.
Oh, he can take a shot, yeah. He's a big man as well.
Yeah.
But, David's been in the ring with these guys. That's what I'm saying. People don't know this. He's fought Elenius. He's fought Wach. He's been in with, he sparred with Pulev as an amateur as well, as well as fight, He's fought all the top fighters, Kamarel twice, the Russian who he stopped in the Olympics, Glazkov, another up-and-coming Ukrainian.
Yep.
He's fought world-level fighters. That Mogadov, I mentioned his name.
Yep.
Yeah, Samolov or whatever his name is. He's fought them all. So, he's been in at top level. He's in the condition and he's got the strength levels now to deal with that. He's also, he wants it. He's a motivated fighter.
Yes.
He wants to get to the top. I think getting a bronze medal was in some way in at the end when he looks at his career when it's finally over. Winning a bronze medal was probably a blessing in disguise because it's made him as hungry as he is now to go that step further to become a world champion. And I believe 1,000,000% that that's what's going to happen. I wouldn't be doing it unless I believed he was going to be a world champion, because that's my aspirations is to train one fighter and what that one fighter is going to be a world champion.
Well, between yourself, Franny Smith, and Peter Fury, you both believe that you've got the men that are going to win the heavyweight championship of the world. And I
Sure,
wish you
yeah.
both the very best in terms of trying to win a heavyweight championship of the world for the UK. Franny, thank you so much for talking to Bayloric TV.
It's been a pleasure, Ingram.
Really have enjoyed it. I've
I've enjoyed it as well. Well, when I've listened to your other interviews, I've liked the way you do things. You don't you ask the right questions. You don't just like try and make things sound good. You're right that you ask the uncomfortable questions, and I was prepared to come and answer any question that you were prepared to ask. So because we've got nothing to hide, and we're open, and we want to show the people what the truth is.
The other thing is, I'm going to ask, and I don't know how this is in terms of you as trainer, but I know Frank Maloney. There's well documented recently about Frank Maloney's financial problems. Is that going to affect Maloney and David's relationship in terms of moving forward and getting fights and stuff?
No, there's no financial issue with Frank. It was a company that, I mean, a lot of these promoters have different companies. He had Frank Maloney Promotions, he had FTM Promotions. So it was just another company that wasn't probably making the amount of money that it should have been. So it needed to be liquidated or closed down. So it wasn't an issue for anything to do with us. At the end of the day, we're generating our own income by the gates that we're putting out. So it's definitely not an issue. Frank Maloney's doing a great job. He's got experience. He's getting the right opponents for David. So it's all good with Frank Maloney.
Yeah,
definitely.
Frank Maloney's been speaking to me a bit on Twitter as well. So hopefully at some point we'll get Frank Maloney on Bayloric TV. And I'd love to be able to talk to the big man himself, David Price.
Yeah, I'm sure he'll do an interview, but obviously you'll have to get this Skype thing sorted out where it doesn't go off, because that'd do his head in.
I know. But the good thing is he can't throw a right hand at me because I'm all the way in the Caribbean, so that's a good thing.
Where are you? You're in Grenada, are you?
Yeah, I'm in Grenada, yeah.
Oh, what's the weather like?
You really don't want me to tell you. It's beautiful, it's gorgeous, the sun is out, and it's only it's 4:15 here, so it's 8:15 your time, so it's all good.
Any boxing gyms out there?
There's not many actually, so it's nice to come and it's got great hills up here, so good for you running and getting yourself fit and stuff. So if David ever wants to come over,
maybe we'll have a training camp out there one day.
Come over, definitely.
Sound, it's good stuff.
Hey, great speaking to you again, Franny. Really appreciate it.
Thanks, Ingram. Anytime, mate.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
See you soon. Bye, mate.
Bye.
Bye.
Well, there you have it. Franny Smith, the trainer of David Price. I felt it was only fair to do an interview with Franny Smith, as I'd previously done an interview with Tyson Fury and Peter Fury. So hopefully the big man himself, David Price, will be on the show in the near future. Don't forget, you can watch the Franny Smith interview and many more interviews at www.bayloricworldwide.com. I'll repeat that, www.bayloricworldwide.com. Or actually, one better, see if you can see this. Here you go, www.bayloricworldwide.com. Thanks for your support. See you soon. Take care.